Last week, we saw that Paul starts off the book of Romans by claiming to be an apostle. And remember, an apostle is one that was sent and carries the full authority of the one sending them. So that Paul is claiming to have been sent by Christ and carrying all his authority. That's a pretty big claim. Let's say that a man walks into your church and he goes, "Oh, I had a vision from God. And God told me that I have his complete authority. So listen to me." What you would probably do is sit him down, give him a little bit of water, and say, "Take it easy and just rest right here, and we're going to call for some nice men with white jackets, and they will take good care of you." So why didn't they do that? How did Paul introduce himself to the churches? And why did they accept his claims? It seems like many times when Paul goes to a church, he announces that he's an apostle. In this case, I think it was especially important that he starts off by announcing that he's an apostle. When he started this church, after he left, some others came in and they started saying that Paul was wrong. And they started teaching a totally different message. So Paul is starting off by saying that he's an apostle. Remember that an apostle is one that has the authority from the one that sent him. So not only does he call himself an apostle, but he immediately says, "Hey, wait a minute. I wasn't sent by some human agency or people. I was sent by Jesus Christ and God himself." So in effect, he's starting out by saying, "I represent God." So let's see how he backs that up. Here, Paul is remembering how he first visited the church, so we can learn a little about how he introduced himself. But first, we have to talk a little bit about the word angel. Remember when I talked about how words can have different meanings? Like the word green? If you say, "Sue's looking a little green," and she's on a fishing boat, then she's seasick. If you say, "She's looking a little green," but she's watching her boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend maybe, with another girl, then she's jealous. If she's just starting a new job and you say she's pretty green, that means she's a newbie. So you have to pick out the meaning of the word from the context. The word angel has two possible meanings. One, it can mean a heavenly creature that we refer to as an angel. The other possible meaning of the word is simply a human messenger. So, if we translate that, if we think that word is actually referring to a heavenly creature, then why in the passage did Paul mention his infirmities? Do angels get the flu? Do angels get colds? I think it's unlikely in this passage that they thought they were dealing with a heavenly creature called an angel. The other way it could have been a heavenly creature called an angel is if he's just saying, "They were really nice to me. They treated me like an angel." Okay, that's possible. However, remember the whole book of Galatians is about dealing with these people that came in and are giving the people a different gospel. Either way you translate that word as a heavenly creature, it doesn't impact that argument. But let's change that. And let's say the word simply means a human messenger. So in which case he'd be saying, you welcomed me as though I was a messenger from God. Oh, okay. What would he be saying then? He would be saying that he told them about his experience on the Damascus Road, where God struck him down and blinded him and gave him the gospel to give to all the Gentiles. So God made him a messenger of the gospel to the Gentiles. That would have a major impact on his argument, because then we would be saying, hey, wait a minute. When I first came to you and I told you about my experience on the Damascus Road, where I was given my gospel by God himself, you believed me. So why in the world are you listening to these other guys? So, why did they believe him when he first got to the church? I think this passage answers that. When he first got to the Galatian church and told them how God had struck him down, made him blind, and gave him the gospel to send to the Gentiles, he proved it by working miracles. We can see this is the pattern throughout the New Testament. The signs of an apostle were performed among you. In other words, anybody claiming to be an apostle has to back it up. They have to do signs and wonders and powerful deeds. They have to do miracles. They have to prove that God sent them. Today, sometimes people wonder, well, why are there no miracles? Why are there no prophets? What they don't realize is through most of history, there were no miracles and there were no prophets. The 400 years after the closure of the Old Testament, there were no miracles, there were no prophets. The whole 400 years, Israel was in Egypt. There were no miracles, there were no prophets. The only time God gives miracles and prophets is when there's somebody that he has assigned to speak for him, and that person needs to be authenticated. The person coming off the desert and saying, God spoke to me, I have a message for you. Okay. He needs to be given proof by God. God doesn't expect you just to go, oh, great. So you can see in Deuteronomy that one of the tests is if a prophet comes and says, I'm speaking for God. Okay, then give us a short-term prophecy here. And it better come true, because God never makes mistakes. So if you are truly speaking for God, then you should be able to do miracles, and you should be able to make short-term prophecies that will come true. Going back to Romans, we can see that Paul had never visited the church yet, but they were aware of his ministry and his teaching. So clearly, they were also aware of his miracles, and so accepted his apostleship. So far, we've been pretty detail-oriented. I'd like to get to a little larger overview of what's going on in the book of Romans. But first, I'd like to talk about a pet peeve of mine. If you see in this verse the phrase Jesus Christ, I think that's mistranslated. It confuses people. People think that Christ is his last name. It's first name Jesus, last name Christ. And that's not what's going on here. If I said Joe Carpenter, you would think the first name was Joe and the last name was Carpenter. What I should say is Joe the Carpenter or Joe a Carpenter. Then you would understand that carpenter is the occupation. Christ is a title. It means Messiah. So really this should be translated as either Jesus the Messiah or Jesus a Messiah. The Greek behind this can go either way. I'm not going to get into that because just listening to me is probably suffering enough. But it can go either way. The way you decide it is from the context. Clearly the Jews expected just one Messiah. And in the New Testament, they expected just one Messiah. So it's Jesus the Messiah. Now you could say Jesus the Christ, but I think because we've been saying Jesus Christ so long, I don't think it becomes as clear to people that that's the title. So whenever you see in the New Testament Jesus Christ, think Jesus the Messiah.